The bones of the roof of the cranium are located dorsally and laterally in the skull. These bones are caudally the squamous part of the occipital bone. This squamous part, together with the lateral and basilar parts, constitute the occipital bone. Dorsally in the cranium there are two parietal bones, and more rostrally the two squamous parts of the frontal bones. The frontal bones also participate in the skeleton of the face with their nasal and orbital parts. Laterally in the cranium is the squamous part of the temporal bone. This portion is different from the tympanic and petrous parts, which are included in the skeleton of the ventral surface of the cranium. Now let's talk about the most relevant landmarks in the roof of the cranium. Beginning with the squamous part of the occipital, there is the external occipital protuberance. This is where the funiculus of the nuchal ligament attaches. Laterally to the external occipital protuberance, there are two prominent nuchal crests, and in the nuchal aspect of the occipital, an external occipital crest. All these crests are for insertion of the nuchal muscles. In the dorsal midline, the interparietal suture of the jaw fold progressively gives rise to a prominent median sagittal crest. This crest is part of the temporal line which surrounds the temporal fossa. This fossa is mainly occupied by the temporal bone. In the frontal bone, it is important to come to its zygomatic process. In the root of this process is the supraorbital foramen, which gives passage to the frontal nerve. The supraorbital foramen is an external palpable landmark for the anesthesia of this sensitive nerve. It is also important to mention the lacrimal fossa in the internal surface of the zygomatic process. This is the place where the lacrimal gland is located. The squamous part of the temporal bone is not only important as a part of the cranium, but also for the articulation of the mandible. The big zygomatic process of the temporal bone has three bony structures related with this joint. They are located in the ventral surface of the roof of the zygomatic process, where there is a mandibular fossa, a caudal retroarticular process, and a rostral articular tuberculum. All these structures articulate with the condyle of the mandible in the temporomandibular joint.